Incoming transmission.
The Klingonese word of the day is "po."
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
So, this is a huge victory for the good guys.
Scotty, beam me up.
Resistance is futile. Live long and prosper.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings and welcome to the Computer Resume podcast, the show covering the entire Star Trek franchise in chronological order for fans new and old. I'm your host, writer-comedian, Mr. Todd A. Davis. He is one half of Captains Quadrant with a hell of a voice.
Oh, thank you.
It's Joe Dove. Yay!
Hello, and thank you for having me. I'm very
My
excited
man.
to be in the jazz hand. Yes. Very excited to be in the Computer Resume podcast. Very excellent to see you again because we've hung out in person in the
Yes.
flesh.
Yeah.
And we transported into Trek Long Island together. And
Yes.
you were a guest virtually on the Captain's Quadrant. So here we
I
are.
was. To be honest, after my appearance, because we did the game. What was the? You guys had me play a game, and I'll be honest, I gotta apologize.
Oh, you nailed it. Yeah.
I was an
it
absolute dick about it.
Yeah, you were so good. Oh, you want me to tell you that it's this? And then my buddy was like, oh, okay, I gotta make him harder next time. It was very good. That was great.
To be
name that Trek-isode. That's our game.
that's it. Yeah, you pull a screenshot and it's all pixelated, and I'm supposed to guess. Yeah. And to be fair, I had just watched it, and it is one of my favorite episodes.
Oh,
I know that episode really well. So when I saw it,
let me tell you were the first person to ever beat my co-host.
Oh,
yeah. So I just want to give you that props because
oh man,
my co-host Jason Roy Gaston is an amazing comedian as well, and he's quite infamous on TikTok.
Yes, he is,
and Instagram. He's a great guy, and both my co-hosts at the time, but my main guy Jason Roy Gaston now is like the most brain filled with Star Trek information person that I've ever met. And then when you did that, I was like, ooh, I can't believe it. So that was
it's I've looked at in going through the franchise, and I'm sure this has probably happened for you as well. You start to nest on certain episodes, certain stories, and then when you do that, you kind of get deeper and you start peeling back the layers, and and I love that particular episode because I'm a big fan of Christmas Carol. And that particular episode with Picard, quote unquote, dying, and Q basically, showing him what his life would have been like.
And that's totally Christmas Carol.
It's a little bit Christmas Carol. It's a little bit. It's a Wonderful Life, and it's a great one. I love that.
It is. It's one of my favorites. And then I just hadn't seen it in years. And then once it came clear, oh, okay, now I remember. But you guys, you nailed it.
Well, we're talking about a great episode today, and it was kind of with Strange New Worlds being so episodic. This is kind of a unique chapter in that, yes, it can stand alone, but it connects so many things to the franchise. Like this is unique in and of itself. So let's dive. We'll dip our toes in, and we'll slowly wade into these waters. You yourself, you're a big nerd. We before we started to roll, we had our little show and tell because we can both see each other's offices. But let me ask you, are you a big fan of time travel movies? And if yes, give me your top 3.
Oh, okay. 3. I am, first of all, I'm going to start this out by saying The Terminator is probably the greatest time travel movie ever created.
Okay.
Because it has these elements that tie a greater universe into itself. Sets up for a great sequel. And then we don't talk about certain other movies in the franchise, but it does set itself up for all of those movies. Everything kind of does fit into the universe because there's this tether that strings the pieces along and makes it such a great tapestry. And I absolutely love Terminator. There is no better time travel movie. There are great ones. Go ahead. What's up?
Well, I was just gonna say, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No,
I,
it's
I
fine.
definitely want to get your opinion before we continue on with time travel movies.
Sure.
I want to get your opinion on the theory or fan notion, or whether or not it's actually true. I don't know, but the idea that the Terminator movies are the prequels to the Matrix films.
Yes, I
You
agree.
you agree with that?
That's a big fan theory that I agree with. Yeah, because the AI that ends up taking over just ends up winning in the end.
Uh-huh.
Puts everything into a underground cave that basically then creates a dark utopia, but a
Yep.
utopia for the machines.
Yeah.
And the machines kind of just take over because the thing that puts me, you're gonna really make me nerd out today. People are like, God, this guy's a nerd.
This is a safe place, sir.
All right, great.
You're in good company.
The eyes on the Sentinels are almost exactly like the Terminators of
Oh
the
my
3800.
God.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So that is why I'm like, those universes connect for sure.
Oh.
It's just like Blade Runner and Aliens are the same universe.
Yes.
That's another one. That's another one.
I love the Alien franchise. I love Predator. When they combined, a lot of people don't like those movies. I think they're dope.
I like them. I'm
Like,
not gonna care.
This is it's just good fun.
Yeah.
But absolutely. Blade Runner is absolutely definitely part
they're
of
in
that
the same
universe. Yeah.
The replicants, and then the Terrell, and then like there's if you listen to the extended version of the Prometheus TED Talk,
Mm.
he mentions my mentor sat on top of a mountain, a giant pyramid on the top floor, and it's like, oh, he's talking about Terrell. You know what
Yep.
I mean? So I think those worlds are the same too.
Oh,
All right,
absolutely.
my
So
second-
number two.
Number two, Back to the Future, man.
Of course.
A trilogy that's just so perfect that it just lingers in your head. I share a birthday with Christopher Lloyd. He was there before me apparently, but you know we'll let it slide this time. I absolutely love
Star
him.
Trek alum, Christopher Lloyd. Yeah.
Star Trek 3, baby.
Oh yeah.
And you know, we're living in the Biff universe, unfortunately.
Yes, we are.
We're living
We
in the
absolutely
Biff
are.
Almanac universe. Yeah. But no, so it's just such a beautiful story of meeting your mother and how that would work out, and you're actually the instrument in the creation of yourself.
Yeah, kind of weird.
That's
Yeah,
a cool-
but also, I think it's a nice way to realize, well, my parents are human too. Like,
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's that realization. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of stand-up comedians who have poked fun at the Back to the Future being all about Marty having sex with his mom.
Yeah.
It's not that.
No.
Although it is a funny notion, but
Yeah.
like it's that thing that we all come up with. You know, Robert Zemeckis directed it, produced by Steven Spielberg. Those guys are all about those coming of age stories, and
Yeah.
part of growing up is realizing like your parents don't have all the answers. They're not perfect people. Like
Exactly.
trying to figure it out just like you. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a really big fan of The Time Machine that nobody ever watched. I don't even know if you've watched it. But
I have not.
Oh,
Is this which one is this? Because I know there's a couple of them.
there's a couple of them. The originals are kind of harder to watch, but I'm talking about I think it was late 90s, early 2000s one.
Okay, I'm aware of it, but yeah, never pulled the trigger.
I don't know if it's the main villain inadvertently because of he keeps messing up time, and that's one of the stories that I love.
Mhm.
So you go back in time to try to do something good.
Mhm.
It's the famous quote, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions."
Yes.
And that's what he keeps going back in time, trying to fix something, and it makes it worse. It makes it worse. It makes it worse. And he creates a whole universe of messed up beings. And one of them is played by the amazing, his name slips my head, so I'm going to IMDb it. He was in Die Hard 3 as the main bad guy. Jeremy
Irons.
Yeah, he was the main villain of that. And it's such a good time travel movie. And even though it's the original time travel movie, there's so many elements that just like hit the nail on the head. It's like, okay, well, maybe if I go back and I can fix it this way, and then boom, it messes it up again. Okay, well, maybe I can go back and do it. Nope. You know, and you just keep screwing it up every time.
Well, I think, you know, to throw in a couple of my choices, you know, along the lines of what you were just talking about with that, I don't know if you've ever seen Primer.
Mm-mm.
That is fascinating. If you dig like the plot that they were using in the time machine, it sounds a lot like what they did in Primer.
Ooh.
I want to say either late 2000s or like early 2010s. It's a very indie movie, like heavy on the technobabble. Like the technobabble in Primer makes, and I realize we're on a Star Trek podcast and we're Star Trek all the way. We bleed Star Trek. The technobabble in Primer makes Star Trek's technobabble look like it's written in crayon. Like,
oh wow.
It is intense. But it is the tagline of the movie is what happens if it works. And it starts with these two guys kind of tinkering around in their garage trying to make the next big invention, the thing that's gonna make them $1 million and the whole thing. And they accidentally discover time travel.
That's cool.
And then and then it's kind of like, well, what would you do if you had a time machine? So what they start doing is playing with the stock market.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then in sitting around chilling, having a good time with some friends, the question comes up, if you had access to time travel, what would you do? And one of the guys says, well, I'd go and punch out this one guy. And then there's like a dead silence in the room. And then you see like certain things that have actually transpired in their lives, or that things that are coming up, and like the idea of going back and meeting your past self or being able to see your future self, like all of that comes into play.
That sounds a lot.
It is wild. I don't want to give too much away. I may have already given too much away.
I definitely want to watch it now.
It is worth it, but like watch it sober.
Yes.
Because the first,
I don't drink anymore, so I have no choice.
Good for you. Good for you. Because those first few minutes are slam full of technobabble, and it's hard to keep up.
They said what?
Yeah. And I think the other one, there's certain things like, Time Traveler's Wife and things like that, and those are all fun.
Look, we're obviously missing the big time travel one. That's Star Trek 4, which the Klingon version of Christopher Lloyd had the time machine that went back. That was brought up in one of our reviews on the Captains Quadrant, but I thought that was always funny.
Well, you mentioned Die Hard. I gotta throw in Looper.
Looper was a great time travel.
Looper's wild.
It would mess me up, actually.
It'll mess with your head for sure.
Yeah.
It's him and Joseph Gordon-Levitt turning in a very subtle performance as a younger Bruce Willis. Like, I mean, the makeup and prosthetics helped a little bit with that, but like Bruce Willis isn't like a guy that a lot of people do impressions of, or, certainly not now. And to be honest, not really ever.
No, it wasn't one of the people that people were like, oh, like Arnold for sure. I'll get to the job.
Oh yeah. And Christopher Walken, of course. Yeah. For sure. It's anyways, from the time travel aspect, it's pretty wild because it's kind of like time travel is mainstream, but it's outlawed. So it's used in like these in like mob hits and stuff like that. It's like, oh man, that is crazy.
Cooper was great. That was a great movie.
One thing that sticks out to me about time travel movies is there is a notion of usually the person that is going back or forward is sort of a fish out of water. And we actually get a little bit of that in this episode tomorrow and tomorrow, where not only are we dealing with two characters who are from parallel universes, but both of them are then thrust backwards in time. But they become that fish out of water. Have you had an instance in your life, in your career, where you felt like a fish out of water and that you would feel okay with sharing?
Of course. Listen, man, I live with my life on my heart on my sleeve, so I'll share anything. Unfortunately, so I've been in the shoe business for 19 years. I just left the shoe business. Well, the shoe business left me. We'll say that. And I tried to pivot on a salary similar position, but it was totally an opposite of what I was doing. Mm-hmm. Though it dabbled at the end of the day into that, but there was so much and such a short amount of time for me to do that, trying to learn the systems and everything. I just felt like a fish out of water because I was an older guy. Everybody was younger than me. Everybody spoke on on those like, oh, sleigh and the vernacular that I'm not accustomed to. My uncle who passed away, his kids that live with me, they would probably fit in fine there, but they're also 13 and 10. I'm
Oh,
in my 40s and I'm not gonna, go backwards and try to,
oh,
I
sure.
I will say I have Riz, but
Hey, there you
that's as
go.
far as I go. Um, but yeah, I felt like a fish out of water there. And I also remember traveling to China the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And that definitely makes you feel like a fish out of water. And I just kind of walked around. So I'm a big guy. I wish I was taller, then I would look better. But
Hey, I feel you, man.
yeah. If I was just stretched out a little bit, it would come. Anyway, I remember going. There was this bar at the end of the hotel, and it was a spot where you shouldn't go. And I remember going, "No, I'll be fine." And then I remember people coming up to me, it's like, "You really shouldn't go that way." And I was like, "No, it'll be great. It's okay. I'm American, America." This dumb American mindset of mine at that time. Now I'll be like, I ain't going there. But I'm walking down the corridor, and this limo comes up, and there's this humongous dude that gets out of the limo, opens up the car door, and there's this like dude decked out in a suit with this beautiful woman, and I'm like, that seems a little bit nefarious because this guy has like these sunglasses, and I'm like, whatever, they'll probably let me in if I walk over. I'm American and I'm friendly. And I remember starting to walk over, and the cleaning lady came. She grabbed my arms, like, "No, sir." And I was like, "No, I'm fine," because it was cold. It was 50 degrees for them. That was cold.
Yeah.
"No, I'm fine. I don't need a coat. I'm good. Don't worry. She's like, and I like keep walking. And then I remember the giant bouncer dude like putting his sunglasses down, looking at me, and I'm like, "Ooh, okay, I get it now." And I walked away.
Yep.
So I've been a fish out of water many of times. I've traveled to several different countries, and each one of them I felt like, even though people have been kind and spoken English, like when I went to Portugal, I tried to order a pizza, which is another dumb thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember taking out my phone, and I'm going, trying to speak Portuguese, even though I'm part Portuguese. You think I would be better at it. The guy looked at me right in my eye, and he goes, "We speak English, like better than I would have said." I was like, oh, "Okay, thanks."
Oh, man. Yeah, I had a similar experience it was about 2 years, well, almost 2 years ago, when the wife and I took our trip to the UK.
Oh,
And
nice.
we thought, yeah,
Fish and
let's,
chips. Yeah.
well, yeah, because we were like, they speak English, so we'll
Yeah.
be okay. And then even just getting over there was just kind of like, the language thing is tip of the iceberg. Like, it is very different here.
It is very different. Yeah.
And we were in London for New Year's. Big mistake. For somebody who doesn't do well in big crowds.
Oh,
Not a good idea.
sorry.
Because there's even though the people there are also very friendly, but it's kind of one of the main centers of this planet. Like, it's not just Londoners, like you've got people from all over the place.
Yeah, everybody wants to go to the UK. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a massive Indian population.
Huge Indian population, huge Italian population. Like, it was Asian, like you can rattle it off all day long of the different types of people that we ran into. And we were kind of we were a bit sheepish about it because at the time we got into a cab, and again, cab driver's very nice.
Yeah.
But it was a couple of words out of our mouth, and the cab driver kind of glances over his shoulder, is like, "American?" Yes. And they're like, "So Trump, tell me about that." And I'm like,
no.
I'm not the person to ask.
Yeah.
It's not, that wasn't us, I swear.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, it's and I mean, there's been different jobs. The one time I think in a employment setting where I felt like a fish out of water was when I went to work at the jail.
Oh.
And I think it was my first night on the floor. The elevators were activated by a key card system, and the way the structure of the jail, the bottom floor was where the kitchen was, but that's also where all the kitchen workers, inmates, were eating. And I came around a corner to get on the elevator, and I could not get my card to make the elevator work. I've got probably 50 inmates behind me watching me try to get, and finally one of them went, "Officer," and I was like, and I just slowly turned around. They go, "Swipe and wait." Like I had an inmate tell me how to use the elevator.
Jesus.
I was just like, "Thank you, appreciate it." They're like, welcome to GCDC. I was like, "Thank you."
Wow. Are you still a CO or no?
No.
Yeah,
I did that for about 3 years and got my class 1 certification, and then got detective certification, and wound up working at a college, which was a lot of fun.
Did you shoot a gun?
I was fully armed. Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah. It came with its pros and cons.
Yeah, of course. But
then after that, I went back for paralegal and got into criminal defense, and yeah. So, and then now I'm a stand-up comedian.
Oh wait, you don't do that for work? I thought the stand-up.
No. I'm full-time podcasting and stand-up now. Yeah.
You're a really interesting guy. I got to give it to you. I thought I was an onion layer. You're up there with me. That's for sure. Maybe
there's a lot. Yeah, we'll have to get a burger sometime
for sure.
and share life stories.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's a ton of stuff that I tell you, because I have policemen and I have criminals on either side of my family, and I have great stories about both. And
I'm sure. Yeah, it's there. I always heard there's a thin line between blue and orange.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
So, getting back into the episode
about Star Trek.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Star Trek. I'm just going to go ahead and rebrand the show to just be called "Oh yeah, Star Trek." One quick story.
Yeah.
So I've been producing the podcast for a while, and then somebody in my real life came up to me and goes, "Hey, I heard your show." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And they're like, yeah, it's really good. I was like, "Oh, thank you." And they go, "It's only kind of about Star Trek." And I was like, "You know what? That's fair."
Yeah. That's great.
But yeah, getting into Lon and Kirk on this adventure back in time. Staying spoiler free for the moment. What are your overall thoughts about this episode, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow?
Well, first of all, the whole setup connects with so many different areas of Trek in different time periods, including a huge arc from the Enterprise series that I loved. It's like, oh, they're going to do the thing, and I totally adore that. Them going together and how they came to that point, spoiler free. So I'm trying to walk around this.
Yeah, it's tricky.
It is, but and how they came together and the manner of which they came together was fascinating.
Yeah,
I loved it. Even the play with certain characters as a captain themselves was like, oh, that is a nice touch. And the uniform that character was wearing, I thought, wow, that's cool. This is what we could have had if things would have been a little different. And it's one of those things like a butterfly effect where it's like, hey, just because Captain Archer actually went and blew up that whole planet after Porthos pooped on his tree, they totally messed up the entire Federation, So
yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like everything in peacetime is so fragile, and people don't realize that so many small things lead up to catastrophic ends. And we're kind of seeing it right now.
I was about to say, dude.
Yeah, we're I just feel like, Roddenberry's vision was eventually, after we've destroyed ourselves enough, we'll come into a utopian mindset, and the thing that is humanity will build itself up for the better and realize, hey, the way we were doing things before wasn't right. Let's work on this together and dance among the stars.
Yes.
And we're going there on the bad end. So I'm hoping at the other end of this, we'll be going to space in a right way, not just for Elon,
Right. I've said it a couple times on the show here, and until proven otherwise, I'll continue to hold this as a belief that if we ever hope to reach the stars, we have to reach sideways first.
Oh, that's
nobody gets there alone.
No.
And yeah, with the way the world is politically, and it's seemingly there is nothing that I've seen so far that is untouched by what is happening in the world right now.
Sure.
For better or for worse. And we all know the old saying, it's going to get worse before it gets better. So, and even Star Trek proves that, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. So I can tell that both of us are just chomping at the bit to get into the nitty gritty of this episode.
Yeah.
But before we do, let's get to this week's recap. Brought to you in part by our Patreon supporters, Rev J, Jerry Antimano, Kitty B, Ed Milner, Fleet Admiral First Class Fred Sims, and Wren, Sir Chauncey Dalton Featherstone Waugh III, Esquire, Zitzman Chiropractic, Don Ringheiser, and Nate D.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
A mysterious wounded man appears on the Enterprise, giving a time travel device to Lon, and dies.
How convenient.
Lon finds herself in an alternate timeline. Earth is ravaged by war, and Enterprise is captained by Kirk. The device transports her and Kirk to present-day Toronto, where the pair form a romantic bond. They search for the point of divergence that caused the alternate timeline with help from a younger Pelia, and find a eugenics lab which is raising a young A Romulan time traveler named Sarah intends to change human history by killing Khan and preventing the eugenics wars, which would keep humanity from the path that led to unity and the Federation.
I mean, it should be.
Sarah kills Kirk and fights Lon, who kills Sarah and saves Khan. Lon returns to her Enterprise and is thanked by a time-traveling investigator from the future, a colleague of the mysterious man who confiscates the time travel device and swears Lon to secrecy. Lon contacts her timeline's Kirk, but he has no memory of her.
Incoming transmission.
Is your house without honor? Are the walls of your home covered with paint instead of your enemy's blood? Restore your family's name with authentic weapons and wares from KlingonShop.com. KlingonShop.com has been honorably forging Klingon weapons since 2020. Real replica batleths, macleths, kurleths, the Sword of Kahless, and more. Whether you're decorating your domicile or completing your cosplay, KlingonShop.com has everything you need with deals so good you'll think we're Ferengi. And then I'll kill you for thinking such disgusting thoughts. Today is a good day to support KlingonShop.com, unless you're a Patak.
Okay, Mr. Rozhenko, thank you for coming in. That was great.
Of course it was! Now get me the hell out of here!
Hi, this is Conan Trenier from Star Trek Enterprise. You are listening to the Computer Resume podcast.
Okay, so now we are in spoiler territory. That was
Good.
a very quick recap.
Yeah.
Skipping a lot of the juicy nuances that are in this episode. So let me ask you probably the most important question that has ever been asked on this show. Do you like hot dogs?
Oh, I love hot dogs.
I took some time a while back, and I'm a big fan of the Robert Rodriguez school of cooking, of like find the one thing you really like and learn how to make it better than anybody. Like just focus on the one thing.
Yeah.
And for a while there, I took hot dogs. I was like, I'm gonna make some great hot dogs. And I ended up doing some research on what ballparks make the best hot dogs.
Interesting.
Found their recipe and their technique and sort of adapted it into what I do now, which is basically cutting the skin on four sides, putting them in a Tupperware,
French way,
covering them in beer, onion powder, garlic powder, and letting them sit in the fridge for 4 days to a week somewhere.
Wow.
Then taking that whole Tupperware, dumping it in a pot, letting them simmer until they plump up and open up. And then from there, put it on a toasted bun with ketchup and mustard and a little mac and cheese. And yeah,
that's amazing. So I'm eating red snapper tonight and peas. So nowhere near as yummy as that. I mean, I love red snapper. It's my favorite fish. That's why my wife was kind enough to go and buy me a fillet today.
Nice.
That is my absolute go-to when I go to a restaurant. But that hot dog that you just described made my literally, I'm surprised you didn't hear the rumbling like, whoa. My stomach's like, that's amazing. You don't have a gallbladder anymore. You shouldn't eat it, but that's amazing.
There is a reason I'm focusing on hot dogs is because I've also started personal training and a diet plan. So I'm so hungry right now.
Yeah, it's like, I want a hot dog so bad.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. So, red snapper, I don't think I've ever had red snapper. I'm a big fan of salmon and tilapia and lobster and shrimp. There's not a lot of things I'll turn down.
Yeah, no, red snapper. The reason why I like it so much is it's a firmer fish. It doesn't smell fishy. Unless you leave it outside for a few days, then all fish smells terrible. But,
well, let me ask you this because you went to China. What was the best meal you had in China?
Oh, I had these ribs, dude.
Ooh.
And I can't eat them anymore, but those ribs were incredible.
Oh, God.
I've had a tofu seared garlic piece. It's just literally a brick of tofu that they like seared on a pan. And then they have this garlic sauce, and it was delicious. And I hate tofu, but that I loved. It opened my eyes because so I'm from New York area. I grew up in New York, and it's chicken wings, French fries, Chinese food, whatever, lo mein, blah blah blah. That's all bullshit. When you live in China, it's a totally different. The noodles are incredible. I had street noodles by a guy that looked like he could have been my brother because my eyes are kind of like slanted in a way. A lot of people think I'm part Asian.
Okay.
And I've gotten a lot of stuff in my time because I'm a mixed person, so I get different things. But these noodles, and this guy's not wearing gloves, and he's just making the noodles. He might as well have been picking his nose or whatever. But those noodles were so freaking good. They were freaking amazing, and because of the way they use garlic in their cooking, and it wasn't as sweet. Like a lot of the Chinese food here, they tend to make it saltier and sweeter. But over there, it is just rich with different flavors. And it is incredible. Let me tell you, like the ribs that I had there was no sauce on them. There was a dry rub, but it was like a garlic and this like these flavors that they had. It was like a pepper, garlic, like a red pepper that they had. It wasn't spicy, but it just like the meat just melted off of the bone. And I like took one bite and just pulled all the meat off. It was just it was incredible. I've never had ribs like that since.
That's incredible. Yeah. I think when we were, so there's two meals that I think of regularly in my mind's eye, in my dreams, late at night. No, but when we were in the UK, when we kind of got to, we landed in Scotland, then we went to London, to Wales, and then we hopped a ferry and went to Ireland, and then came back and then came home. That was like 3 weeks. Like,
did you hang out with Sean Ferrick?
No, unfortunately, no.
I hung out with him in Trekland Island.
I kept looking for him and asking around, and everybody was just like, "Okay, American."
Yeah. You know who Sean Ferrick is? Who the hell are you?
But when we went from Scotland to from Edinburgh to London, we got in the weather was horrible while we were there, like so much that even the cab drivers are just like, it doesn't rain this much, and I'm like, oh my God. Wow. When a London cab driver tells you it doesn't rain this much, that's bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, the trains got delayed. We ended up getting into London really late, and we were just starving. We were just like, oh, there's got to be something. What do we want? I was like, honestly, I'd go for just Italian, whatever's close. I don't care. And so we, pull up the map, see, and like 2 blocks from our Airbnb, there's this little Italian place. I said, perfect, let's go. We get there. It turns out it's one of Stanley Tucci's
no way.
recommended Italian, like some of the best Italian
Oh,
in the world.
yeah, yeah.
And he is not wrong. It was just plate after plate after plate of like,
Wow.
oh, this is incredible. Oh, this is incredible. Oh, this
Oh,
like, and
man.
it was,
The
oh,
Italian food is one I love too.
yeah,
But like you'll get your tchotchke Italian that's like all nobody's Italian in the place. You're
of
like,
course.
where are the Italian? And then you get your like Nona's pizza shop or Nona's like Italian restaurant where they're actually Italian
Oh
or
yeah.
related to. And that level of taste is just unbelievable. Because a lot of people put too much salt in things, but when you know how to cook, you don't need to put salt in it at all.
Yeah.
And it comes out amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. The other,
Oh
the
man.
other, the other meal I recall is from, I think it was our our sixth wedding anniversary. We did a little, we had moved to Florida and we were doing a little road trip up to DC, but we stopped in Savannah, Georgia. No, you know what? It wasn't our sixth. It was our second wedding anniversary
Oh,
because
okay.
we actually had our anniversary in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, wow.
There is a place called the Pink House. It's an old bank in a
Ooh.
brick building, and they kept stuccoing the brick, but the
Oh.
brick bled through and turned it pink.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and they again, it's an old bank, so the freezer is actually they converted
Vault?
the vault. Yeah,
Oh,
they
wow.
converted the vault into the freezer. My wife ordered the scallops.
Hmm.
I'm it is not hyperbole when I say it is the size of a softball.
Oh,
Of
wow.
them. Yeah, these were
Those are older scallops.
yeah, and just huge, just massive. These massive scallops.
Why are
I
you
was like,
bringing me a baseball? No, that's
holy
the
crap,
scallop.
what is
Yeah.
this? But when I tell you just fall apart,
Oh,
buttery,
oh man.
just the I don't know what kind of seasoning they used, if any, because it just tasted great. I
Yeah.
was just like, oh my God. So yeah, it makes me think of, different,
Foods.
different foods and stuff like that. Are, you know,
Oh, Poontine.
poutine, yeah,
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Canada. Absolutely. Kirk
yeah.
was all about it.
It was all about that poutine. Yeah.
But thinking back to like childhood and different memories of different times in your life and how food is connected with those, and it ends up being kind of this key, this connecting tether of this
Well, what
better version of reality.
yeah.
Some would say paradise.
Yes.
So getting a little bit deeper on what is happening in this episode, we talked about a little bit about this before we started to roll, but basically, Lon and Kirk are taken away from their realities and they're dying to get back there. So their realities are what they consider paradise. But when they land, Kirk ends up introducing Lon to hot dogs. He's like,
Mhm.
look, have a hot dog, like enjoy it. Like, and there's this idea of that being a version of paradise. So I was joking earlier about the hot dog question, but a little bit of a deeper question. What to you is paradise?
So my paradise is going to flip people out because it's a duality. My
Ooh.
paradise was also my hell.
Oh,
Yes. So
okay.
I when I was young and I first moved to New York, I was born in Rhode Island. Backstory: born in Rhode Island, parents separated, very ugly separation. I moved to New York with my grandmother, my uncle, who became my mentor, the figure that I looked to for guidance and everything. The one that just recently passed.
Yeah.
And I had my grand aunts, my grand uncles, and my grandmother all there, loving me, sharing with me things of family stories and where we came from and how difficult it was because they were African Americans. They moved during the Great Migration because someone had gotten murdered. So they had to head up north. I later would find out that where I live now, or where I used to live in New Jersey, was not too far from where my grandfather would sell houses. He was older and becoming a realtor. And he lived here for a time before me. And the place that I live in was the amusement park that they used to have a good time and enjoy.
Oh, wow.
And would ultimately be something that my mother would consider her paradise because it was the time that you're living carefree. You have no bills to worry about. Everything's being taken care of for you and you're living comfortably. So
Mm.
my paradise would be in that house that I lived in. Well, I can tell you because oh no, the house is still there. I thought they tore it down. Never mind. In Mount Vernon, there was this blue house that I lived in, and it was paradise because I could play video games on the weekends endlessly. I could watch my Saturday morning cartoons and eat my junky cereal that was terrible for me. But I would later end up buying that house and watching everyone pass away in time. And as more people passed, more responsibility was given to me, was thrusted upon me. And it got to the point where a boiler that hadn't been fixed since 1972, when they bought the house, was coming to terms with its existence. And I had to figure out a way to get it fixed. And, my mother trusted the wrong people and they put the wrong boiler in and it broke. So 5 years later, I had to replace the boiler again when my mother fell ill and had to be placed into a nursing facility because she has a MS. And my mom's my number one fan because the one thing I was able to teach her is how to use a tablet. So back when I was making good money, I used to work for Coach, and she actually shouldn't name drop them. I used to work for a shoe company. You can cut that part out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back when I used to have this job and I made really good money, I bought my mom an iPad, like one of the top line iPads, so that she can watch the show. And literally she comes on as Cosmic Mom. She changed her whole identity and figured out, hey, I'm not going to be myself on the internet. There's weirdos out there. So I'm so proud of my mom. But yeah, my paradise is those happy times when we would order pizza every Friday and the pizza man would come over and be like, "Pizza man," he was a cool jive dude.
Nice.
And just those memories of being young in that house, being around my uncle who was a jujitsu black belt, who was a bodybuilder, who was no joke, and just having that piece of my grandmother telling me, guiding me in a way mentally, spiritually, and philosophically, and how things should be. So, and my aunt's business acumen of how, okay, you got to make sure your finances are set and this and that. And those things, I just kind of amalgamated everything. My mother's supreme outgoing personality. My mother was the ultimate public relations person.
Yeah.
And she worked for at a phone company in the World Trade Center. So before it blew up the first time.
Wow.
Yeah. So, so that's my heaven and my hell. That's my paradise and my purgatory at the same time, because those years when they all passed and I was in there for, I think, 10 years after everybody was gone.
Yeah.
I remember the months I was there by myself and just hearing echoes of my mother's disability kind of hindered on me because I spent 10 years. I was in that house for 31 years. I spent 10 years dealing with my mother and my grandmother calling me every 5 minutes because they couldn't move. Their mobility was shot.
Yeah.
So it's just that echo of hearing my name being called. Even if I go to that house now, because my friends, I kept in touch with everybody that lives there. If I go by that house and I slowly walk by that walkway, because I had this huge concrete walkway, I'll hear the voice of my grandmother or my mother calling my name. And it's haunting.
Yeah.
And that's why it's my paradise and my purgatory.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, geez Louise. I thought I had
it's heavy. It's heavy.
That's heavy.
Heavy.
I mentioned earlier again before we started to roll the idea of coming from a religious background. There's the notion of or the saying when someone passes away that they went home to be with the Lord, and I never really knew what that meant. I couldn't wrap my brain around that. It always seemed ineffectual, just kind of religious icing that we're going to put on this really crappy cake to make it palatable. But when I went to my grandmother's funeral in Pittsburgh, where I have aunt and uncle, a whole bunch of cousins, there's a connection in that city that I'm not sure of because I've never lived in Pittsburgh. But just being there, and it kind of dawned on me that heaven is the feeling you get when you go home. And so that's kind of how I've equated what heaven feels like. Now, to describe my heaven to somebody else, I think it's a combination of a lot of things of, my mom's Italian sandwiches and my wife's hugs and my dog's thumping tail on the floor and
You have a big dog, right?
He's 60 plus pounds.
Yeah, that's a big guy. I mean,
he's a big boy.
You've seen Teddy, our little mascot. He's tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like when sunlight comes through a window and makes the floor really warm, like
shimmers,
like standing standing on it. A little bit of the dust shimmer, but also like standing there and being like in a cooler room, but like your feet are warm because of the sunlight.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
But like
that's something I miss because I don't get that. I live in a condo. I don't have that. I live on the inside of so I have my condo's like a big cross.
Oh, okay.
And I live on the inside where the sun doesn't hit. So I get to see the sunset, but I don't get that sun pouring in.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of things like that. But, here in this episode, they're talking about hot dogs and sunsets and warm showers. Like, and Kirk even has like, do we need to fix anything? Like, this all seems really great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it made me, again, with that idea being presented as the episode goes on and we meet Baby Khan Nooney and Singh.
This is Canada.
Yeah. But in a moment there, and I mentioned it to you again before we roll, there's a whole nother episode that nobody's seen.
Exactly. Yeah. You guys missed it. Sorry.
But we talked about the music.
Yes.
And the music is it's a little bit tense, but it's very sad.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a couple of notes right as Khan begins to speak that for some reason triggered in me the memory of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Gene Wilder, classic.
Right.
And the song Pure Imagination.
Right.
And in thinking, if you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that nowadays. And we've already talked a little bit about or alluded to the fact of things in our world are not so great under our current administration. And it's hard to do that. But take those simple things, a hot dog, a sunset, a shower, a hug, and let that be your paradise. And I'm going to try to do my best to not cry here. I've had my emotions on look, we just finished talking about the Muppet movies on the other show that I'm on. So my emotions are cranked to 11 already. So
I remember the first time I watched the Muppet movies at a babysitter's house because the library was unlimited movies.
Yeah.
I lived across the street from the library, and we had a Carnegie library across the street from us. It was amazing. If you've ever gotten the chance to get into a Carnegie library there, it's epic. They're beautiful.
Yeah. But looking at Khan, and we all know Khan as this murderous, torturing psychopath, hell-bent on vengeance and destruction of anything deemed unworthy or imperfect, forgetting like he was a kid and all of that was stripped from him. Like there is no paradise. There is no paradise for Khan. He ended up with Marla McGivers. Yeah. She died.
Yeah.
Like, he had that. And he and his people on a planet that got stripped away too. And
because it flipped. This is City Alpha 5.
Yes.
That whole
But what are your thoughts about young Khan and the things that Lon says or doesn't say to Khan amidst this, amidst losing a budding romance with Kirk.
That version of Kirk.
That version of Kirk, yeah. What are your thoughts about all of this coming down and this idea of paradise, and for Khan, a paradise lost, where it never had a chance to experience paradise.
I think this was a perfect example of the endless possibilities made by decisions that people make on a blow off, like a minute thing. Whatever. It's
Yeah.
no big deal. He's just another test tube baby that we're gonna make into this monster. Who gives? They probably didn't even think he was gonna be a monster. We're gonna make the ultimate weapon or the ultimate human. That was the goal. It wasn't even, oh, we're gonna conquer the world. No, that wasn't the goal.
Yeah.
It was just a side effect of what you've made.
Yeah.
Like today, since we're gonna timestamp this, they rebirth the dire wolf. What are going to be the ramifications of the dire wolves being introduced into society and nature? Who knows? But it's the same thing for the dire wolves. They don't know paradise. They don't know what it's like to just be born free roaming. You can't free roam as an animal now like you could, when they originally existed. It's the same thing. You've been scientifically engineered and created for a specific purpose, and you're going to be able to ascertain your own destiny based on decisions and the things you consume. You would think La'an's brief conversation with him and her inability to kill him herself, and just kind of letting him be, would have started a domino effect that led to a different version of Khan. I don't know if we're going to get a rehash of the Wrath of Khan later on down the line. I don't think it's a good idea.
No.
I think we need to put that one to bed. There's no one better than Ricardo Montalban. No offense to.
Oh, that's another discussion to be had, sir.
Yeah. No offense to Cucumber Bandersnatch, but I just think Ricardo Montalban was peak villain, Star Trek villain. Him
iconic.
Yeah. Christopher Plummer and him and the Borg Queen, top 3 Star Trek villain. I mean, from movies, Gold Dukat TV, the best. Anyway, there's just so, it's such a deep and astounding thing that they did with this, because they found a way to bring Khan into a story since they named the character, she's La'an Noonien Singh, to connect them without messing up too much of the timeline, because this existed without, outside of the timelines of both of them.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing about Star Trek. It's so infinite. It's a multiverse unto itself.
Yeah.
And Lower Decks actually kind of did that for us and gave us a bigger multiverse.
Yeah, for sure. Looking at, and again, just as you were talking, because it again sparks the imagination. The idea of, and I've already mentioned Stanley Tucci once in this episode. Let's bring him up again. When he is describing to Steve Rogers the idea of what the super soldier serum does to someone.
Right.
Good becomes great, bad becomes worse.
Yeah.
So looking at skinny Steve Rogers versus baby Khan, because the thing is, like, when Lon's in there with a gun, Khan asks if she's there to kill him or if she's there to take him away. Listen to his voice. He's not scared.
No.
That's an issue.
That was a big thing that I noticed but never was able to talk about, because I was like, if some woman that I don't know randomly just popped up with a gun, I'd kind of be a little bit, oh, what are you doing, lady? Like, what's up?
Like he's either okay with it, which, okay, this kid's horribly damaged already.
Yeah, exactly.
Or he's happy to see her, which is even sadder. Like, are you going to relieve me of this?
Yeah.
Like, oh man,
the experiment sucks.
Yeah.
Out of here.
Yeah. So I think there's definitely an interest, because they talked about releasing a podcast series of Khan.
Yeah, an audiobook series.
Yeah.
With the guy from Lost.
Yeah, the IDW did the Khan miniseries, Ruling in Hell. I think there's definitely some areas to be explored on the psychological side for sure. But what does there's been so many different experiments about, like, what does X do to a person? Like, and then it's that old line from Jurassic Park is like, you were all thinking about whether or not you could. You didn't stop to think to ask whether or not you should. And, and things like that, getting into the deeper ramifications of things like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, and I feel like we've only scratched the surface of this episode. Do you have any other thoughts about, the plot of this episode in that Romulans come to disrupt the timeline, or that we see a younger Pelia, Carol Kane, who's absolutely brilliant. Any other thoughts on your end about this episode before we move on?
I feel like, is David Cronenberg one of the time agents in this one? Because this is kind of tiptoeing around the Enterprise time war and kind of connecting with Star Trek Discovery, because it was
a little bit.
Heather's in this episode, and I thought that was brilliant, and I love that they used the time police, which I believe that David Cronenberg's character was.
Yeah, I think he was definitely well, he said as much, that he was a temporal agent. Yeah,
he was the temporal agent from Enterprise.
Yeah.
So
Daniels,
yeah. So this connecting everything, all this connective tissue was just incredible. It's one of the highlights, I believe, of season 2. And
in a season with a lot of highlights.
Yeah, it's true. But I still think this is one of the episodes, like when you said, oh, we're going to do tomorrow, when I got the notes from you, I was like, oh, I actually really like this episode. So I was happy to rewatch it and see it again. And then I watched a little bit on the bus on the way home because there was a protest at time. But some of the things that were happening, the bridge getting blown up in Canada, and seeing that strife and come to fruition there, and how the Romulan agents were doing that. I know they won't touch this topic again, but I do feel that we're going to get from Kirk, the proper Kirk, because there was a love lost for La'an.
Oh yeah.
She comes back and she's like, oh, Kirk, and not realizing that that's not the same guy. That guy's dead.
Yeah.
And the guy that you're seeing right now is a totally different version.
Mm-hmm.
And when that dawned on her, I feel, and she cried. She let a big girl cry.
Oh yeah, that was a big boohoo. Yeah, for sure.
So I just feel like that's going to come into play, but not with Kirk. I think it's going to be something else that triggers it, and it's going to bug her out. I mean,
so we've talked about a couple of different fan theories about some things, but I wanted to ask you about this fan theory in particular, if you've heard it or if you have any thoughts on it. There's an idea that because of the love lost, or I guess in the Prime universe, the Prime reality, Kirk's interaction with La'an, knowing who she is, and the good interactions that he's had with her, if that colored his decision-making process when he eventually encounters Khan in Space Seed.
Ooh.
And because there was some romantic flutterings, we'll say, between him and La'an, that he didn't treat Khan with a firmer hand. He was looking for the best in him, or that he would adapt to this new century. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that? That essentially because La'an fell in love with Kirk, we get Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I like that. That's a fun play on possibilities because of something that happens, an adventure that never happened but happened.
Yeah,
just kind of puts that in his head. I mean, he did serve with her in this iteration. Obviously, probably did before, and we just didn't hear about it because. Chekhov was there too, and Khan knew who Chekhov was.
Yeah.
Chekhov knew Khan. But I was like, I don't remember you, and I don't forget a face. Like, yeah, okay, there's something here. But I really think that if they want to play with this again, which I don't think they will. I don't think they'll bring this back up.
Yeah.
But that's now. I don't think in Strange New Worlds they'll bring it up. Now here, I have a theory that I'm going to share with you.
Please.
An exclusive. So Patreon, get your money out. No. I think that what they are setting up is for a reboot of the TOS series.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, we've got Scotty. Uhura's there already.
How I feel about it.
We've got Scotty, we've got Kirk, we've got Spock, obviously. All we're missing is Bones and Sulu. And Chekhov.
That's true.
We're just Bones, Sulu, Chekhov. 3 characters away from a reboot of TOS. I think if they end up doing a reboot of TOS, we're going to get a reboot of Space Seed. And I think that's when this theory can come into fruition. Then, if you look at the past, these characters didn't exist at that point. So it's a fun fan theory, but if they reboot this and if they bring it up, totally makes sense. They totally have to do that.
Yeah, I think from a production standpoint and from a franchise standpoint, I don't know that it's the best move to reboot or remake. I'll put air quotes around remake TOS.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do, they better stick the landing. It better be incredible.
I mean, they can't do Space Hippies Way to Eden again.
No. It's
No, it would have to be a modern take on it. It would have to be
yeah.
somewhere blurring the line. If they're smart, they'll close the Kelvin universe and everybody will come out with the cast that we have and we'll have a TV show. Like they can pass the torch that way.
Yeah.
Jason Roy Gaston, my co-host on the Captain Quadrant, always wants Zachary Quinto to play Cybok. And he's hoping that comes to fruition in
That
this
would be cool.
In this TV show.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that does happen, but it would be dope to see Zachary Quinto play Spock once more and have some type of interaction.
Yeah, because I some of the folks that I've talked to like to give the Kelvin timeline a bunch of grief. Honestly, I think they did a great job.
Oh, they did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
People need to chill.
Even the not great moments in that trilogy are still pretty good.
I agree.
Yeah.
I recently rewatched the first one, and it's such a good movie. With Nero and Leonard Nimoy in it and everything. Fantastic movie. But I'm big on passing the torch. I didn't think they did such a great job with Generations, but the torch was passed.
Yeah.
They did little tidbits in the Next Generation series. Scotty shows up, McCoy shows up, Spock shows up. We got those things. We missed Uhura, we missed Sulu, but Sulu was in Voyager, so we kind of got, we got a little bit of that. And I think that if they do it right and they do it that way, where we get these dribs and drabs of these little, Star Trek has its own multiverse. So Star Trek can do its own Avengers movie where maybe we kind of get the Strange New Worlds with the Kirk timeline, with the Kelvin timeline, and they can all converse and have like a big super movie.
So let me ask you this. If they do decide to do, because I think I had heard the theory or the rumor or however you want to call it, that they were considering making TOS its own pocket universe and then rebooting, from where we are.
Yeah.
But if they do a Kelvin version, or if they do the TNG cast in the Kelvin timeline, who do you want to play Picard? Tom Hardy or James McAvoy?
James McAvoy.
Yeah.
James McAvoy.
Absolutely.
He was amazing bald, and his voice. Tom Hardy's got this grit in his voice, and he's like tough.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas James McAvoy has this commanding voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the thing about Patrick Stewart. He's got this commanding voice. That's the thing I loved about Captain Picard is, if he's yelling at someone or he's dealing with Tomalak or everything like that, he takes charge because aside from his demeanor, his speech and his, he's a trained Shakespearean actor, the way he pronunciates and using his diaphragm, that's a big part of the Picard character. So for sure, James McAvoy.
Yeah, I think so. Because there is part of me that's like, oh, I wonder how Tom Hardy, and then I'm just like, nope.
Now, I'm one of those idiots that absolutely loves Nemesis. I die on that hill. I don't care.
I like Nemesis.
I'll always love Nemesis. I thought it was fun with B4 and them driving around on that planet and a ton of things. And but Tom Hardy. That was weird.
Yeah, unfortunately. And again, I'm a big Batman fan. I don't want to go off on too big of a Tom Hardy.
He was amazing as Bane.
Yeah, to be honest, like he was so good that unfortunately it was some of the aesthetic choices of the filmmakers that ended up hindering his performance.
Yeah.
The fact that they had to go back and redo all of his lines. You covered 70% of his face. Like it's there were a lot of issues with Dark Knight Rises. I still love Dark Knight Rises.
Same.
But I think they did the best version of Bane that they probably could have. But I think if they had tried to I don't know if they needed to scale it back or just take it in a different direction or something like that. But yeah,
the
yeah.
Talia thing at the end.
Nobody was fooled by Talia.
No.
Nobody.
No, not a surprise.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Star Trek. Here we go. So, we've talked a lot about this episode and things on the surface and things underneath, and a lot of wonderful performances of this amazing story. But as we do every episode, we always ask the question lovingly: who do we blame? This episode was written by David Reed. His first credit was as assistant to writer on Battlestar Galactica Razor in 2007, a position which he kept for 20 episodes of the regular BSG series. He was also a script coordinator on Battlestar Galactica The Plan, and he also had the same gig for 65 episodes of Supernatural, eventually getting to pen 2 episodes of that series. His first written by credit was on the TV movie Lake Placid 3 back in 2010. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, those gems. But he didn't stop there. David also wrote Lake Placid, the final chapter in 2012, featuring Michael Ironside, who
Holy shit.
Yeah, who guest starred in the Law and Order episode of Community.
And he was also the main bad guy in Highlander 2.
Yeah.
As was the general in
Starship Troopers?
Starship Troopers, yeah.
Yeah. I think he's also in the original Total Recall.
Yeah.
Yeah. The dude is a great, he's a great, like, gruff, villainous.
Yeah.
Like, or I won't say villainous, I'll say antagonistic.
Yeah.
He's a great hurdle for the main character to navigate. Yeah. But this is his first writing in the franchise, but not his last.
Ooh.
So this episode was directed by Amanda Rowe, whose last work in the franchise was Strange New World Season 1, Episode 8, The Elysian Kingdom, which we discussed back on episode 126. Like, if you're a D&D fan, that's your episode.
Your go-to. Yeah, for sure.
I love that episode. There's some really great stuff in that.
Yeah.
Now, for our guest stars, we've got a few here. Of course, we have Adelaide Kane, great name, by the way, as Sarah. Her first credit was 46 episodes of the Australian show Neighbours. She's also appeared in Power Rangers RPM, The Purge from 2013, Teen Wolf, and Once Upon a Time. Before this, her first, probably last appearance in the franchise. And then we have, she didn't have a lot of time in this episode, but I thought she did a great job, Allison Wilson Forbes as Agent Malay. She's a graduate of UCLA's TV writing program and has appeared on Flashpoint, Orphan Black, The Strain, The Expanse, and Why the Last Man. Before this, her only appearance in the franchise so far. So, Joe, as we do every episode, we always ask the question, is this essential viewing? If somebody is sitting down and watching Star Trek for the very first time, and they get to this episode tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, is this an essential episode, or is this one that they can skip?
Essential. There are so many, like I said, there's so many tethers, it makes a tapestry.
Yeah.
It is a must watch for any Star Trek initiator, and especially if they ever watch Wrath of Khan. The implications. I mean, you got to think about it. This episode connects with Enterprise, Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, Star Trek Space Seed. It connects with future things with the whole Daniels plot. So this would then connect with Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Enterprise, and little bits of tethers into Deep Space Nine, because Julian is also an augmented character. So that concept goes so deep and wide into Star Trek that this episode for sure is a must watch. I think it should be a pinnacle essential viewing. In fact, it should be a box set and a DVD release.
From your mouth to Paramount's ears. Yes.
Essential time travel episodes. And this should be like a series.
Yeah. I'm going to take a slightly different stance than you. Not really opposed, but just a little bit different perspective. I think because Space Seed leading into Wrath of Khan is such an iconic bundled story with this little prequel Space Seed and Wrath of Khan. Wrath of Khan being one of the greatest. It's on everybody's best of list.
Oh yeah.
And
Top
it's
one or
not
two.
even best of like Star Trek, like best of everything
Yeah,
list.
a regular movie. One of my favorite movies of all time is Wrath of Khan.
Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. It's a great
Even if
movie.
you're not a Star Trek fan, Wrath of Khan's a
good
dope
movie.
movie. It's really good.
Great movie.
So with that in mind, because Lon's not really able to even do a personal log about this or talk to anyone about it, and everything is corrected by the end of the episode because the nature of Strange New Worlds is episodic. Yes, you could skip this episode. However, I've mentioned this before on the show, if you're following a particular character track, this is absolutely essential for the character of Lon, because we see her. Yes, we see her cry at the end, but when she's standing there and has that first kiss with Kirk on the sidewalk, listen to her voice. Her voice changes. Like this is a core thing for Lon.
Yeah.
So
but not only that, you see go through her entire curtail of emotions, her fighting, her anger when she's sparring with Mbenga.
Yeah.
There's just so much to her and so emotional. It's so good because it goes through the gamut. In this one episode, she goes through everything: regret, loss, love, anger, joy. She really experiences everything.
Yeah.
And I've talked human experience in one episode.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've talked about Pike as the leader. He has been a builder. He's a builder of his crew, and he is a builder of each member of that crew. Lon is in an interesting place in this episode because she's got no backup.
Yeah.
Her only backup is someone who is untrusting of her right off the bat.
Yeah.
So not only having to win them over, but then to work with them and end up falling in love. Like this is such a huge thing for Lon. So yeah, I will say, could you skip it? Yes. Should you skip it? Absolutely not.
No.
If you have any sort of shred of interest in the story of Lon Noonien Singh, which you should, then you definitely need to watch this episode. So I do have one fun fact, and it's about the title, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It actually comes from Shakespeare's Scottish play, or Macbeth, if you're bold and daring, Act 5, Scene 5. Now, the title of the original series episode, Season 3, Episode 23, All Our Yesterdays, also comes from the same monologue, and a part of this monologue was also quoted by Q in TNG Season 1, Episode 10, Hide and Q. So, never let it be said you didn't learn something here on the Computer Resume podcast.
Well done.
So, Joe, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you and theorizing with you and getting diving deep on some Star Trek with you. Do you have any parting thoughts before we go about this episode, Strange New Worlds, about the franchise as a whole, your appearance here on the Computer Resume podcast? Any parting thoughts before we go?
I highly recommend that those who are listening to this podcast rate this podcast on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast streaming moments. As a fellow podcaster, I know how difficult it is for a free thing of just pushing the little key on your phone or just tapping that screen so you can get a rating of 5, I hope.
Yes, please.
Be so kind to do so. From my own parting words, I think that Star Trek is in a position to be the franchise that Paramount will lead into the future and be strong as Paramount is now taken over by Skydance. I'm ready. I'm ready for the new world, the strange new world that they're going to resume into. Season 3 is right around the corner.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for what comes and what may be in that universe. We're going to get a lot of Gorn, which is going to lead back to La'an, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be able to get her revenge, or we could lose her because there's got to be a reason for Chekhov and Sulu some way. So there's that. All right.
Oh, yeah. I tell you what, for the Patreon folks, if you want to hear our discussion about who we think is going to die
Uh-oh.
Stick around for the post episode for the Computer Resume After Dark.
Ooh. We're gonna get hot cocoa. Yeah. So those are my thoughts on Star Trek. Your show, of course. Absolute delight to be here. I am so grateful for you taking the time to have me on in your regular scheduled programming. And
my absolute pleasure.
I can't wait to hang out with you again in Long Island. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun. And
awesome.
And to those, I'm going to leave you the folks that are wondering heaven and hell, the things that I dealt with, purgatory or paradise. Just want to let you know that sometimes, and this came to me from watching Deep Space Nine. Sometimes you have to lose in order to win. And I'm going to leave you with this, and I don't want to be all night, but I'll make it brief. The way I came out of it, I sold my house for nothing. It was a short sale is what it's called. And I would end up then saving the money from not paying that albatross of a mortgage and $900 a month oil bill. Thank you, George W. Bush. I would sell that house, lose, essentially. My credit was destroyed, everything around it. But then I met a beautiful woman. I fell in love with her, married her. We moved in together and we started a better life together. So I won. So sometimes you have to live in a strange balance of paradise and purgatory at the same time. So it's not always a bad thing to hear those two sides of the same coin.
Well said. And a good note. Yeah. Thank you again for coming on. Folks, next time we will be joined by actor Orville Cummings, aka Mr. Christopher from Star Trek Discovery, for a discussion of Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 4, Among the Lotus Eaters, which is available exclusively on Paramount Plus. Joe, where can people find your stuff on the internet, support what you've got going on, and even reach out to you?
Yes. If you are so kind and are so bold and want to hang out with us on Fridays at 9 p.m. live on the YouTubes, I said it like an old man. YouTubes. You can reach out to me on the Captains Quadrant on YouTube. We are live. We have a blast with the actor and comedian Jason Roy Gaston. We are also available on all of your favorite socials, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and I'm going to still say Twitter. Screw that. Too bad. So we're also on the Twitter and Facebook. You can hang out with us there. We have a Patreon now. You can subscribe with the top tier. You can hang out with us on Discord, where we share art of Star Trek. It's a very fun part on our Discord. It's a blast. You also get a free t-shirt. But if you want to hang out and speak with me, you can do so directly at the Captains Quadrant.
And I am at Mr. Todd A. Davis on all of the socials. From all of us at the Computer Resume podcast, thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you in 10 Forward.
Support us on Patreon and like, rate, review, and share on all your favorite platforms. Feel free to send us your subspace transmissions to computerresumepodcast@gmail.com or at Computer Resume on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Computer Resume podcast was created and produced by Mr. Todd A. Davis. Our logo was designed by Will Martin and Justin Bishop. The opening theme was produced by Justin Bishop, and our outro music was provided with permission by Dronode. Additional music was provided by Mr. Todd A. Davis and Gary Horn, and the voice of Computer Resume podcast and executive producer, me, Kat Davis. # LLAP. We'll see you next time.
Going through a Star Trek. We're doing Star Trek stuff in space. We probably got some phasers and shuttle pods, and we're gonna find a brand new race.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?